So thank you so much. We appreciate your participation. And this is just kind of our kind of kickoff for the year for Bee City and Bee Campus webinars. So the intention with today is to talk about pesticides and policy and how that can interface with your work with Bee City and Bee Campus, how we can kind of think outside of our own property and looking at the community at large and how we can enact some larger changes. And what goes into that? Who's involved? What are your options if you want to pursue something kind of bigger than your own vegetable or pollinator garden? So today we have a lot of great people joining us. I just wanted to start off by first of all welcoming Carly, who is helping to host this event today. Carly's been with Xerces for a little bit now, but she's actually switching jobs within our team and will be helping Bee City USA part-time. So in addition to many other great work she's going to be doing for our team, she's going to be another friendly face for Bee City, and you've probably seen her at some of our previous webinars. So I just real quick wanted to say welcome, Carly. Thank you so much for lending your expertise to Bee City. We're really excited to work with you more. Yay! And yeah, thank you. And if you have any questions and whatnot, feel free to put them in the comments as we go. But I'm just going to start introducing some more folks. We're also joined today by two interns that we just did a little profile on in our last blog post and e-newsletter. We have Madison and Sue Ellen joining us from University of Texas, San Antonio. You can see them waving, at least one of them there. They are actually interns with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but are lending help to Bee City and Bee Campus to try to recruit the city of San Antonio to be a Bee City this year, and the University of Texas, San Antonio to be a Bee Campus. So we're super pumped to have them join us, and hopefully we'll have them join us with many more of our webinars, and we can start helping each other out and incorporate their ideas and whatnot. And so yeah, very exciting to have some interns with us. As we often do, we have our Director of Outreach and Education at the Xerces Society, Matthew Shepard, my boss, joining us here, who is an expert on pretty much everything invertebrate, it feels like. He'll always deny it, but it's true. And of course, the reason we're here today is our two main featured speakers. We have Erin Anderson, who is our pesticide program specialist with a focus on towns and cities, and Rosemary Malfi, who is our newer pesticide program specialist as well, but our policy lead. So both of them are going to give us some presentations on their work, and then we're going to have a bunch of time for a Q&A. So we want to make sure to answer your questions, and feel free to stick around a little bit longer than an hour. If we don't get to your question, we can stay and hold on and answer any additional questions. Okay, so just to kick things off, I just wanted to let you all know our plan for 2024 is really to focus on kind of two big things that are part of the commitments of Bee City and Bee Campus USA. We're looking at creating some really good resources around creating and evaluating your integrated pest management plan. I've emailed with many of you about kind of our internal guidance on what Xerces uses to evaluate an IPM plan, but we're going to really formalize these documents and get those out to you so you're able to evaluate your own plan and kind of figure out where some gaps might be and what improvements we recommend. And then, as always, you're welcome to reach out to our staff if you need additional support with these commitments. And then we're also going to be doing some work around providing you with some really nice, kind of fun intro to pollinators materials to assist you with your outreach in the community, to answer those really basic questions about, you know, what is a pollinator? What do they do for us? And what do they look like? And kind of really introduce people. Allow you basically to do that effective outreach without having to reinvent the wheel. So that's what you can anticipate for 2024. And just to get started now, I will have a little icebreaker round for our guest speakers. My question for Erin and Rosemary, what are you planning on planting this year? Erin, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here with you all. So this year, I'm really actually maybe right in the next like few weeks or so, I'm excited to potentially plant a Oregon white oak kind of in the strip right in front of the house because we don't currently have a street tree. And yeah, I love how many different invertebrates oaks can support. And it's a great native species out here in Oregon. So I'm excited to plant a street tree.
Hi, everybody. I've been a big fan of the Bee Cities program long before I was at Xerces, so it's really exciting to get an inside look on the program, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. My pollinator garden out in the front yard, I'm in Massachusetts, is like completely full. I don't think I can put any more plants there. So, so now my project for this summer is to try and focus on our backyard, which is a lot more shady and a lot more challenging for planting. So I'm kind of try out some different shade tolerant plants that are flowering to bring the bees in.
Nice. That is wonderful. All right. Well, with that, just a little quick intro. Oh, Matthew says there's always room for more plants. I subscribe to that mentality. But let's go ahead and kick things off. Erin, do you want to do yours first? Is that what we were thinking? Okay, great. All right, Erin has this presentation loading here. All right. Looks like you're muted, Erin.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
great.
that.
Looks good.
Perfect. Well, again, hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here, excuse me, with you today to talk about pesticide policy and in general ways to, scale up from the individual level and impact pesticide risk reduction at the community level. And I'm going to start off talking not quite about policy, but more about some ideas of how to start that change kind of at the neighborhood and grassroots level. And then Rosemary will take over and talk more about policy and ordinances that can make a difference. So to set the stage, I do want to briefly mention insect declines. I'm sure you're all aware of this since you're all part of the Bee City program. But I kind of want to start with the foundation of why we're here and why we're talking about this. So there have been many recent studies documenting declines in insect populations and communities worldwide. In particular, many pollinators, including bees and butterflies, are imperiled. And the data is patchy since many insects, in fact, most insects, aren't carefully monitored. But the data we do have almost all points to decreases in populations, here in the US and around the world. And we know enough to know that it's essential to take action to conserve pollinators as well as other invertebrates. And one of the major drivers, after, habitat loss and fragmentation is pesticide use. So our society uses pesticides heavily, and part of the reason why is that we believe that they're essential. The pesticide paradigm is the unspoken and almost unconscious assumption by industry, state, and the public as well, that chemical pesticides are absolutely necessary, safe, and effective, when that's not actually true. And in fact, they're highly damaging to pollinators and other wildlife. Many of these chemicals are also harmful to people and pets, which makes reducing their use in homes, parks, and other urban locations even more important. Many of you have likely already made changes in your own yard and understand many of these risks. And if not, we have lots of different resources we can share with you and a whole different Bee City USA presentation on pesticide risks to invertebrates. So you can ask us afterwards for more resources. But today we want to share some tips and ideas for kind of scaling up to impact community-wide change. So something that's really exciting to me about urban pollinator conservation is that our towns and cities can provide great habitat for invertebrates, and in fact can actually harbor surprisingly diverse and relatively intact pollinator communities, because insects are able to really use small patches like yards and parks. But this impact can be even greater if we scale up beyond the lot level to the neighborhood or community level and provide more habitat and more connected habitat. So again, I'll go over some strategies and ideas for how to start doing this from the neighborhood to community level, and then Rosemary will take over and talk about some policy and resolution ideas. Okay, so I want to start at the most local level. So the next step in expanding beyond your own yard is moving on to the community level, and a simple way to do this is talking to your neighbors. talking to neighbors who are actively using pesticides can be a little bit tricky, and I don't have a one-size-fits-all solution for this, but I do want to talk through a few of our strategies. First, we don't suggest leading with your neighbor's pesticide use if you don't already have a rapport with them. I'd encourage you to instead build a rapport on other topics and kind of break the ice before jumping straight into pesticide use. And this might sound obvious, but trying to understand where someone is coming from is really important. Are they using pesticides simply because they're unaware of the risks or have been convinced by the pesticide industry's marketing? Or do they have concerns about it in certain invasive plant or pests? Or do they have time constraints or maybe mobility issues that make pesticide use really convenient? They might be concerned about mosquitoes or ticks vectoring disease. So understanding people's perspectives can better help you talk through solutions with them and help target the resources that you share. And inspiration for me comes from my supervisor, Amay's neighborhood. They have a neighborhood pledge to not use pesticides that's been going on for years. And I guess it was started by a 6-year-old kid who went door to door asking people to take a pledge. And she says that to this day, when somebody new moves into the neighborhood, someone asks them to take this pet pledge to not use pesticides and explains to them why. If you don't feel comfortable approaching your neighbor, I know there's some people on my block that I might not feel comfortable doing that with. You can try gardening by example. If you're including pollinator habitat and eliminating pesticide use, chatting with people who are walking by and ask you about your yard can be a really effective outreach mechanism. I've done that myself. I've been out working in the yard and people stop and chat, and you can kind of, share why you're gardening the way you do. You can also consider signage like Xerces signs that explain again why you're doing what you're doing with your yard. I've personally witnessed the spread of native plant gardening in my old neighborhood over the course of 3 or 4 years. More people gardening with different native plants. There really is a power of neighbors shifting kind of social norms with plant choice and garden design. A whole neighborhood of people practicing common sense pest management and pollinator conservation will have a much larger impact than just one yard. So not everybody has control of, how the property that they live in is managed. Both renters in apartments and those in HOAs with shared spaces often don't manage those areas. And there are some strategies that residents in these types of properties can try to make a difference in these living areas. And one is simply to ask the HOA board or apartment manager to hire landscaping companies who don't use pesticides, or to ask landscapers to use more ecologically friendly methods. Many landscapers in these situations are likely just defaulting to their kind of more conventional management strategies, and it's worth asking to see if they can use less pesticides, use ecologically friendly management practices. And if that fails, another strategy is halting any preemptive treatment of lawns and plants with pesticides, asking them not to use pre-emergent herbicides, for example, or to not treat for pests with insecticides. As you all likely know, most herbivores won't cause damage to healthy plants, and we need robust insect communities to keep pest populations in check. Finally, another common sense strategy in these areas is to see if they'll allow unused or kind of out of the way parts of the landscape to go without pesticides. For example, an HOA could designate high and lower priority aesthetic areas. A high aesthetic area might be the entrance area with the sign, and a low aesthetic area could be allowed to grow as pollinator habitat and not be treated with pesticides. Moving up to the community level, there's lots of grassroots things that you can do to educate the public. Your fellow Bee City, Decatur in Georgia, has some great examples of this. To address pesticide reduction in their community, Decatur has created a great education program by expanding the information section that they have about residential mosquito spraying on their Bee City website, developing literature to hand out, tabling, doing presentations, and creating these great large mosquito spraying kills bees branded signs to put in yards, like the one pictured here. They also have not spraying for mosquitoes as a central tenet of their ongoing Decatur Pollinator Pledge program to keep properties pollinator friendly. So this is, I think, in my opinion, a really inspiring way that community members have come together to do outreach, education, and even local policy targeted at reducing pesticide use in their communities. As a part of a public education campaign, you could consider using social media, newsletters, tabling at events like farmers markets or nurseries, or larger citywide events like at Earth Days or Halloween events or other holidays, which is something that some Bee-City affiliates have done really successfully. Presentations to community groups like neighborhood associations is another tactic that can be used to kind of spread the word on these issues. Some Bee-Cities have also started science cafe or science pub type events where community members can, attend talks on relevant topics. And then some have also used in-person or even virtual garden tours for kind of more hands-on outreach. Another grassroots community example are pollinator pathways communities. These are projects that are organized by volunteers from, conservation organizations in towns that work together to establish pollinator-friendly habitat for bees, butterflies, and other pollinators, with the goal to create these kind of continuous corridors for habitat connectivity. Their goal is to connect properties that are close by, since most pollinators can't forage very far. So creating this connected habitat both increases the habitat and connectivity, but also is a great kind of outreach tool because you're getting more properties and people involved. So the overall nonprofit works to kind of inspire other communities, as well as strategies to encourage habitat installation and pesticide reduction within these pathways communities. And here's a map that shows all of these pollinator pathways communities across the country. I also want to quickly touch on mosquito control, because at the community level, a subject that's often of interest to many people in all sorts of different parts around the country are mosquito sprays. So I want to touch on the community aspect of this. So local vector control districts or municipalities are in charge of kind of protecting the public from vector-borne diseases and coordinating community-wide responses. And many of them do fantastic work. I do want to be clear, but in other cases, the management plans might be lacking in some ways. And a quick general summary, a good program involves investing in public education and communication to make sure that everybody knows what they can do to stay safe, healthy, and reduce mosquito populations at home through common sense methods like reducing standing water in yards and wearing long sleeve shirts, personal protection when you're going out when there's mosquitoes out and about. It should also involve active monitoring of mosquitoes and thresholds for tolerance, in particular for disease incidents and populations of the mosquito species or genus that are the ones responsible for vectoring diseases. High populations of other mosquito species might be a significant nuisance, warranting non-chemical reduction efforts, but they're not what should trigger chemical treatments. When diseases are found at concerning levels and the municipality decides to treat, we of course encourage ecologically responsible interventions, such as only treating waterways where disease-carrying mosquitoes are found and using least toxic options. So with this in mind, if you want to get involved in mosquito control at the community level, the first step is to learn what's happening in your area and find out if your county has a mosquito management plan. If so, does it include monitoring? Is there an outreach program to promote efforts at home to reduce mosquito concerns? Do they spray for mosquitoes? And if so, do they have thresholds, such as only when disease incidence reaches a certain threshold? An effective plan for managing mosquitoes takes an all-hand-on-deck approach. Community members and local agencies have to work together to keep mosquito-borne diseases in check. And we have resources in our Xerces library to help your community come up with an ecologically minded mosquito management program. And you can feel free to reach out to us and we can provide those resources to you if they're of interest. So a quick example before I end my section, the city of Boulder is a really good example. In 2003, there was an epidemic of West Nile virus, and the city came up with a holistic, ecologically friendly mosquito management program. Many municipalities routinely sprayed insecticides to control adult mosquitoes, while Boulder was able to not spray adulticides, so the sprays that kill adult mosquitoes, at all. So Boulder monitored and identified locations that carried the mosquitoes vectoring West Nile in Boulder and didn't treat locations where those mosquitoes weren't present. They used larvicides to only treat the locations with larval mosquitoes. And by monitoring for the presence of West Nile, when mosquitoes test positive, the city increases efforts to eliminate standing water and expands public outreach to involve the whole community in preventative measures. So this is a really simple but effective example of a strong ecologically based community-wide mosquito reduction program. And with that, I will wrap up my section and pass it on to Rosemary.
Thank you, Aaron. Did you want to take a couple questions, or do you want to just save them to the end, Laura?
Yeah, while you're getting loaded with your presentation, we have one question in the chat. Where can I find the mosquito sprays kills bees yard signs? That is actually, I think that's the Decatur, the Bee City Decatur, which is called Beecatur. I believe that was their sign you're probably referring to. Peter from Beecatur is in the chat, or is in this event. So if Peter, if you have a link that you want to share or any comment you want to make, you can raise your hand during the discussion at the end and we can have you talk, or you can just put it in the chat as we're moving forward with this presentation. All right, Rosemary, we see your presentation, but we're seeing the URL bar at the top. If you're able to maybe hit F11 to make that go away.
There we go. Did that work?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, thank you, Aaron. That was really a wonderful description of things that you can do in your own community with neighbor to neighbor outreach. I'm going to focus on some policy solutions for communities. Bee cities are great because the first step for passing a policy is building your group, and you're already a group, so that step is done. And you're kind of a naturally organized entity that can advocate for policy change. I'll say to begin with, though, that working with your neighbors and local officials to change practices is incredibly important. And it's key to have champions and willing collaborators in order to pass local policies. So everything that Aaron talked about, is really important to sort of do in addition to, working toward a policy if that's something that your group decides to do. The reason why you would want to pass a local policy is that it helps to ensure that certain practices are used in the long term. And, top-down regulation can help some reluctant holdouts in the community to sort of get on board. And collectively, local policies can also help to drive change actually at the state level, which we're going to talk about. When enough communities express a desire or demand for something to change, the likelihood of it changing at an even higher level, at the state level, is much higher. So there's that aspect of organizing and policy too. There are several policy options for limiting pesticide use at the local level. I'm only going to go over some of the more common ones. The first one that you see on the screen is a pollinator-friendly resolution. And these are non-binding resolutions that you pass that are more like a promise or a pledge about what a city or town is going to do to make it more pollinator-friendly. And I don't really need to tell this to the bee cities because the resolution that you pass is basically like a beefed up version of this. But what I will say is that it's a really great, organizing tool for educating residents. So it's really a platform for bringing people on board and doing really important public education. I like to call it a gateway policy. So sometimes it's the first policy that a town can pass, towards something that might be stronger down the road. So this is a great thing for communities to do. And they can involve things like native plantings or, pesticide reduction is typically an aspect of them. Sometimes the most viable political option locally is to go after, a particular chemical that folks are concerned about, and not necessarily a system-wide change. Some towns have banned glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. It's an herbicide on municipal and select property types like parks and schools. Some folks are going after what we call second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides, or SCARs for short. These are like particularly nasty rodenticides that are resulting in a lot of raptor deaths, eagles and hawks. And some communities are going after neonicotinoids, which are implicated in bee die-offs. So that's just some of the sort of specific categories that people are going after. But if possible, it's always great to aim for that system level change because there's always another chemical coming onto the market. So you might be able to ban one thing, but then something equally bad, might pop up in its place. So these system level changes, when they're possible, are preferable. And those are things like having an ordinance that says you have to use integrated pest management, which is a decision-making framework that reduces chemical use and favors, preventative measures and non-chemical options for controlling pests. Or even better is codifying something like organic pest management. One of the reasons why I kind of say I prefer this over IPM is that the IPM plan is really only as good as the work that goes into it, right? How well things are defined, how well parameters are defined for intervening. Whereas organic IPM or organic pest management is a little more defined in terms of what products can be used. Typically it's going to be things that are only certified for organic use or on the OMRI list. A couple of examples. So these are very early adopters. They were doing it before it was cool. San Francisco adopted integrated pest management via ordinance through the Board of Supervisors way back in 1996, and they revised their ordinance in 2011. And I wanted to point out Marblehead. So I'm in Massachusetts. Marblehead is not far from me, and they did a really interesting thing. They were having trouble. Chip Osborne is on here because he runs Osborne Organics, and he was a pivotal figure in passing this regulation. So he tried to get it through the Select Board, which is our version of local government. That was not politically viable. And so what ended up happening was it actually was passed through a Board of Health regulation. So, depending on, who you know in town and, which entities are sort of more amenable, you could potentially work with your Board of Health to do something like this. So they, indicated the harms and risks of pesticides, especially for children. And the town has since 1999, has had organic management ever since. They don't even think twice about it at this point. I did want to point out that when you pass an ordinance, and folks may know this, it will only apply to town land. So if you pass a local ordinance, you can only apply it to municipal property that the town has control over. And this is because of something called preemption laws. Most states, all of the ones in orange and the ones in yellow that you see here, have some kind of law on the books that basically says you cannot make stronger pesticide regulations at the town or city level than what the state has set forth. There are some select places like Maryland and Alaska and Hawaii where that is not the case, and you actually can pass local pesticide regulations. And one example of that is in Rockland, Maryland, and that was upheld by the courts and everything. But yes, I did want to bring that up. It's a big issue that folks are focused on right now. We could talk more about it if there's interest. Okay, so that is just a little bit about what you could do at the local level. And we're happy to have more conversations about those things. Now I kind of want to move into state level legislation, kind of let folks know what's going on in that arena and the kinds of things that states are trying to pass. So this is obviously a map of the US, and the darker blue states are the ones that had some kind of pesticide policy introduced last year. And I like this map because I think it's more widespread than I would have thought, before looking at the map. And this is just a breakdown of the bills by state. It's a little small text, but hopefully you can maybe locate your state on there and see how many bills were introduced. New York, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Connecticut, Illinois are kind of out there in front. And a lot of those bills, are focused on neonicotinoids in some way. This particular class of chemicals involved in bee declines. So those are the red bars on the right. Those are the neonic bills that were introduced. Connecticut had several of them. So some examples of things that are passing right now, that are, I would call them sort of up and coming, are making pollinator harmful pesticides restricted use. So this is kind of the most basic thing that a state can do, is they can say, we're not going to let consumers access neonicotinoid products anymore, right? So only licensed pesticide applicators will be able to use them. And you can see the list of states that are doing this is growing. Washington has a bill that's pending. I expect it's probably going to pass. Kind of the next step up, which is politically a little bit harder to do, is to implement non-agricultural outdoor ban on neonicotinoids, which basically means you can't use them in turf, you can't use them ornamentally, you can use them for indoor structural concerns. So this is kind of the next way of trying to get them out of the environment. Some folks are also focused on local control, so that deals with the preemption issue I mentioned before. Some communities or states are very focused on passing bills that will get rid of that preemption and give towns at least some kind of control over the pesticides that are used. A bill, to my surprise, passed in Minnesota last year that gave towns limited local control over bee harmful pesticides. So towns are allowed to adopt an ordinance that prevents even licensed pesticide applicators from using those kinds of chemicals. And another kind of state law that is passing is protecting public lands. Unfortunately, a lot of managed lands, even park lands, are still using pesticides, and so we're trying to get that practice to stop. Minnesota banned the use of neonics and chlorpyrifos on Department of Natural Resources lands just last year, which was great, but also kind of sad that those things were being used. Just to take a step back for anyone who might, not be familiar, neonicotinoid pesticides, as I mentioned, they've gotten a lot of press because of their role in bee declines. But just to take a step back and define what they are, this is a class of pesticides that are that molecularly are a lot like nicotine, and they're highly toxic for insects. They were developed in the 80s. They came on the market in the 90s. And they became, widespread in their use in the early 2000s. And you can see on the chart, they're used in a variety of crops. And since 1995, all the way up to 2015 is where the graph ends, their use has expanded exponentially. And the reasons why, we're particularly concerned about these is that, again, they're highly toxic in small quantities, which means the room for error is pretty high. They're water soluble, which means they dissolve in water, and that makes them a problem for aquatic ecosystems. They're widespread, they're persistent, they can last in the soil for years after use is stopped on a property, and they are what we call systemic. Systemic means that the chemical is actually absorbed into the plant's tissues and kind of like expressed in those plants' tissues. A really common way for neonics to be applied to plants, especially crops, is to have it be a seed coating. So the neonic is applied as a coating to a seed. Then as the plant grows, it's absorbing the neonicotinoid into its leaves and into its pollen and nectar, which is why it makes it such a problem for pollinators, because if you have these contaminated plants out in the environment, there is no way for bees or their flower visiting insects to avoid them. Unfortunately, treated seeds, there's this like giant gaping loophole that allows the federal law to not apply, federal law governing pesticides to not apply to seed treatments. And you can see, I kind of show this graph, which indicates sort of the concentration of a particular type of neonicotinoid in the United States. I show it in part to demonstrate how widespread the use of neonicotinoids are. And also to show that when you stop tracking them, which is what happens in the figure to the right, this is neonicotinoids with seed treatments removed. You can see how much of the neonic use is actually in these seeds and not in other types of neonic use. So it's extremely common, and yet it's not properly regulated. And so some states are trying to go after this now and take it on. New York just passed the Birds and Bees Protection Act. This was huge. And in 2029, it's going to prohibit the use of neonic-coated seeds unless the need for them can be verified. Because the biggest problem right now is they're being used on crops all the time, not in response to a pest threat, but as a preventive measure. So like corn, for example, over 90% of corn grown in the US is from treated seed. That amounts to like 90 million acres of land that's being treated routinely with pesticides. And Minnesota and Vermont, I forgot to put the bill numbers in, but I can get those to folks if you're interested, are also eyeing that kind of legislation right now. And the last thing I'll say is just that, bee cities are amazing. And you guys are sort of all ready to go group for organizing and advocating. If there are multiple bee cities in a state, bringing the cities together and doing that kind of coordinating and organizing would be even more powerful. So state legislation, you know, needs advocates. These legislators are very overtaxed. They get so many bills across their desk. If there's something that you want to pass, you need to reach out and let them know. And wearing a bee costume at the State House never hurts. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mary and Aaron. That was wonderful. All right, so now we have plenty of time to answer questions. Carly, do you want to summarize any of the comments and answers in the chat? I can do that too if you don't have any, if you don't have those ready to go. All right, I'll just go ahead and...
sorry, Laura.
Oh, no worries. So I'll just start off. I saw that somebody asked if there's a link to purchase any yard signs, and Aaron and Matthew chimed in. We do have Xerces pollinator habitat and Leave the Leaves signs available for a donation in the Xerces Society Gift Center. Our Bee City and Bee Campus affiliates also receive a sign in their welcome box when they join. But we also encourage you to make your own sign. It can be really nice to involve neighbors, friends, kids in designing a sign that fits your local needs. And you can always include your Bee City logo or links to local resources. And let's see. Do you have anyone you want to summarize, Carly? Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
Questions in here asking about the specific state legislations, Minnesota and Washington. Interested more about the Washington state proposed legislation and Minnesota legislation.
I don't see, I would have to go find those comments. Is it just broadly asking what those are?
Yeah.
Okay.
The more specific one is any suggestions for population reduction for the spotted lanternfly?
Well, to go to for the bills, in Washington state, a bill has been introduced to just make neonicotinoids restricted use pesticides, which means if a average consumer went to, you know, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, tried to get an over-the-counter product, they would not be allowed to have a product that has a neonicotinoid in them. So they should be removed from consumer shelves, and only licensed pesticide applicators will be able to access them if the bill passes. I think it's out of committee and should be heading to House Ways and Means. And then there was a question about Minnesota. Was it about a particular piece of legislation?
No, it was
did not
just
specify.
Yeah,
Oh.
just interested in Minnesota legislation, please.
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, there's so much that I probably can't say it all right now, but Minnesota has had like just a bang up year. They passed a number of bills last session that are reducing pesticide use and aimed at increasing pollinator health. And there's still more that's moving. The bills that I'm working on right now involve a non-agricultural outdoor ban of neonics and regulating neonic treated seeds. So those are two bills that are really important, and I'm happy to talk more about them because we're trying to rally as much support as we can. I'll put my email in the chat, and feel free to reach out and I can tell you more about them.
And could you answer any suggestions for population reduction for spotted lanternfly?
That's a really hard one just because it's such a landscape-wide problem. One thing that we suggest to people is, going out when there's egg masses and trying to essentially smush them, because it's a lot easier to get the egg masses before they've turned into actual moving adult spotted lanternflies. But unfortunately, there's just kind of a limit to how much you can actually control them in your own yard, just because they're going to be coming in from the surrounding landscape. Rosemary, you live somewhere where they're actually closer to the spotted lanternfly infestation. I don't know if you have other things to add, but
No, I mean, they're actually not, they've just.
they're not in Massachusetts. Okay.
They've just kind of like occasionally, there's like a spotting of them, pun actually not intended. And they're trying to do public education on identifying egg sacs and stuff like that. But no, I mean, it's a really hard problem to address. I grew up in Pennsylvania where it's like really, really widespread, so.
And we have another question from Carol. Our city has a good IPM. What are specific things that are effective in reducing residential pesticide use?
Say that one more time. Our city has effective IPM.
Has a good IPM. What are specific things that are effective in reducing residential pesticide use?
Right. So you mean on private property? Yeah.
Yeah, residential. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Aaron's tactics kind of speak to that. I don't know if you had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if you're trying to, get neighbors and communities to reduce, pesticide use in residential areas, in neighbors' yards and things like that. I think some of the, tactics that I talked about today would be a good place to start. If you're interested in your own yard, or, for if you're communicating with neighbors who are open-minded and are interested in this, we do have a lot of resources on our Xerces site. I can quickly go through and provide them. They kind of have the underpinning of some of our philosophies. We kind of, in general, recommend people start with prevention. So making sure your garden is, it has conditions that are less hospitable to pests, so that it's kind of robust against those infections and infestations. And then, we have recommendations for different types of non-chemical management strategies when pests, do arise. And yeah, I can share some of those links as well if they're useful to you, or when you're doing some of this outreach to your neighbors or community.
Thank you, Aaron. And Phyllis, this is a specific one from Phyllis. So if you're able to answer it, she's asking about federal bills, a few in particular, the Agricultural Labeling Uniformity Act. Do these protect America's children from toxic pesticides, in your opinion?
Yes. So one of the things, the Uniformity Labeling Act, that would potentially actually take away control from states to create stronger restrictions than what the federal government allows. So it would be a federal form of preemption, the issue that I talked about in the presentation. So that is it is a huge thing that we're keeping an eye on. A lot of folks, in the advocacy community are on the Hill talking to senators about it. I have faith that it won't pass and won't have that effect, but stay tuned. And if anyone wants more information about that, I have actually a fact sheet that I can give to you. So Phyllis, if you want to email me, I can send you a fact sheet. And then there are some federal bills. SAPA is the Saving America's Pollinators Act, which was introduced by Blumenauer of Oregon and Representative McGovern of Massachusetts. And this would actually cancel registration for neonicotinoids. But I think more important than that is it would kind of change some aspects of the pesticide registration process, so that pollinator health would have to be considered more on the front end, rather than always trying to address it after a pesticide has been registered and then it's harmful and trying to do something about it. So I think that's a great bill to support. And then something about children. There's a PACTPA, PACTPA. Anyway, PA. Trying to remember what it stands for. The pesticide.
Protect America's children from toxic pesticides.
Thank you. Yes, it's in my presentation. That one is also very worth supporting. Again, like it's not necessarily going to go anywhere, but it's a great tool for rallying folks and doing some public education on pesticides. I hope that answers your question.
Real quick, I wanted to address an early on question in the chat. Are there any examples of biological controls for mosquito control, such as installing bat boxes or introducing dragonflies in areas with standing water?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Unfortunately, while there are a lot of various organisms, yeah, like bats and birds that will feed on mosquitoes, there's little evidence that providing habitat for birds or bats will, significantly control adult mosquito populations. There's more evidence for aquatic predators, and I think that's being asked with the question about dragonflies. For aquatic predators successfully controlling larval mosquitoes via, dragonflies or copepods. But unfortunately, they're not really the type of thing that you can go out and buy and release. So for kind of residential areas, our recommendation is for places like ponds, where you can't or don't want to, drain the standing water, to try to increase habitat, in and around those ponds so that you can kind of bolster naturally the populations of natural enemies that will hopefully kind of impact and control those larval mosquitoes. So yeah, it's a great question. Definitely part of the solution, but unfortunately, there's not something that is kind of going to be the magic thing that will take care of mosquito populations on its own. Things like source reduction are still really, really important tools in controlling mosquitoes in residential areas.
Awesome, thank you, Aaron. And then Tilton was wondering, do seeds with insecticide treatments present a significant issue for management by homeowners?
It's a good question. So you're not, but not necessarily in a like residential garden context. So I wouldn't say that ornamental plants are being grown from treated seeds. That doesn't mean they're not being treated with neonics. They usually are, or they often are, but it's as like a soil drench, and then the same thing happens, that it gets absorbed into the plant, which is a separate issue. But treated seeds on crop seeds, if you're in any area that's sort of adjacent to agriculture, that is an immediate concern for your community. And if you're in a state with a lot of agriculture, it's a concern. So it doesn't come up in a residential context specifically, but it is something we should all be concerned about.
And it seems like a few people are wondering about Roundup and if there's a good organic replacement or OMRI listed replacement for that.
Aaron, is that?
I don't know of a good, OMRI listed replacement that's kind of like a 1-to-1. If there was a kind of magic substitute for glyphosate, I think that would be great. I think, so often these things are kind of context dependent, depending on what weed you're trying to control and your landscape. So I'm sorry, I don't have a great answer for that. Rosemary, I don't know if you have a better. Yeah, I think I also saw Phyllis's question about whether there's an alternative for glyphosate for large-scale restoration projects. And I do want to note that, in residential communities, we, especially in home yards, where I do a lot of my outreach and work, we definitely try to focus on eliminating pesticide use, because these smaller scaled areas like a yard or a small park, the strip in front of your house, those are all places that are more easily controlled without chemical methods, because those patch sizes are smaller. But for something that's a really large scale restoration project, herbicides, even including glyphosate, are a tool in the toolbox. And sometimes I don't want to say it's the best solution, but using herbicides up front will help control some of these weeds and maybe not have issues down the road, and allow these pollinator plantings and the restorations to succeed. So for these large scale restoration projects, sometimes again, herbicides are a tool in the toolbox. And I want to note that, lots of times glyphosate gets a lot of attention because it's been studied more than a lot of other herbicides. So we do know more about the impacts that glyphosate has, even though it's still relatively little. I'd love there to be even more studies on all sorts of different other invertebrates than, it's mainly a lot of these studies are on honeybees as a model organism, for example. But just because we know that there's negative impacts of glyphosate, it doesn't mean that other herbicides don't also cause impacts. They just haven't been studied yet. So I just want to kind of throw that in when we're substituting chemicals. Lots of times it's not necessarily just because there isn't evidence that something is causing harm, it doesn't mean that it's not. We just haven't studied the impacts of many of these pesticides, especially herbicides, on invertebrates.
And I'd just like to chime in that if you are looking for more spot treatment methods, there's always good old-fashioned hand weeding. That's a great tool for smaller scale work. But also looking into investing in a steam weeder, or if it's appropriate as far as fire risk goes, flame weeders sometimes can fill that gap. But steam weeders seem to be picking up steam. Not the pun wasn't intended, but it's there. And we do have some affiliates that have found them to be effective and kind of fun. And you're just left with a dead little plant composting back into the soil, essentially. So that might be something worth investing in for a park or school, kind of for the bigger scale work.
Yeah, those are great suggestions, Laura. Yeah, there's all sorts of great non-chemical methods that you can use, especially in urban areas, and yeah, lots of cool solutions.
Awesome. Thank you for those solutions, guys, and ideas. Nicole is wondering, I've heard mosquito dunks, the tablets that you treat the water with, are very effective at killing only larval mosquitoes and therefore are safe. Oops, lost my spot there.
Is that
This
true?
is true.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my understanding is that the active ingredient in the mosquito dunks kills mosquitoes, but then also some other flies. It's kind of targeted to Diptera. So while it is safe, for bees and Lepidoptera, for example, if you're being really kind of conservative and trying not to impact the broader insect communities, it may have non-target effects on other flies. So we'd recommend, if it's something that you can just drain, like a bird bath. Mosquitoes take, it's like 7 to 10 days to complete their life cycle. So as long as you're swapping that water out in like a bird bath or in, pet bowls, things that are standing in your yard, for example, if you swap that water out weekly, mosquitoes won't be able to complete their life cycle. So that's like the most kind of cautious way to control their life cycles, or control mosquitoes in your yard. If you do have something like a water feature or a pond, you can put just like a small waterfall or even like a little pump in, because mosquitoes require still water. So that little bit of circulation will make it so the larval mosquitoes can't survive. But then if there is a place where you use a mosquito dunk, yeah, it's not going to have wide-reaching impacts or anything like that. But there's other solutions you can try first that are even more cautious than using mosquito dunks.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. Very thorough answer. I appreciate it. Laura, let me know if I have skipped any here in the chat, but folks can also raise their hands if there's one that we've missed. Oh, one just came in.
Yeah, real quick, I saw a comment. Is there a documented best practice model IPM plan? Just real quick, I'll mention that we'll be preparing, I mentioned at the top of the hour, we're going to be preparing some guidance, public-facing guidance on creating and evaluating your IPM plan, to give you the tool to look at, does your IPM plan have the following categories? And then within that, what does that mean? What works for our town or our city or school the best? But I'll let Aaron and Rosemary chime in as far as like why we don't see just one IPM plan for all cities and all campuses, if either of you could speak to that.
I think, the IPM plans, as Laura mentioned, are community specific. So it's going to depend on the types of pests that you're typically encountering. Some IPM plans will go so far as to, specifically limit the types of things that can be used in the event of a chemical intervention. But I mean, there are some strong examples, and if you're interested, we can send along some to you. But I imagine, like, among the people in the room, like, our B cities probably have some of those strong examples. So yeah, Aaron, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's a great answer, Rosemary. And I think that, like Laura was mentioning at the beginning, we're hoping to provide some resources with some kind of guidelines and checklists that aren't necessarily prescriptive, but kind of cover a lot of the good elements that IPM plans should have later this year, which hopefully will be helpful.
Yeah, and I do kind of send out to our B cities and B campuses. If you want to email me, I'll put my email in the chat. I send out examples of IPM plans from our B cities and B campuses that I have been told by our experts are good quality plans that have at least elements that may be inspirational, but we don't advise just straight up copying them because again, it needs to be something that works for your needs and your community, and it's something that works for your staffing, your budget, and the training of the people that are actually on the ground. This plan is not something that should sit on a shelf. It needs to be something that's actually used. It's a dynamic document that should evolve as staff learns what works, as they change out what plants are around town, perhaps, if they switch out those high pest pressure experiencing trees or something like crepe myrtle and start adding some native plants, maybe those pest issues change over time. So ideally, these are living documents that are understood by staff on the ground and endorsed by upper management. And we are actually at the top of the hour, so I'm just going to let you all know this meeting is recorded and will be posted on YouTube in our next e-newsletter in February. You'll be able to find it in about a week on the Xerces Society YouTube channel. You can just Google Xerces Society YouTube to find that. It's linked on our website as well. And we will stick around and continue to answer questions. But if you need to jump off, I just wanted to thank you so much for your participation and your great questions and for all the good work and good expertise you all bring to the table. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, but we'll continue with our answers here. Carly, do you have anything in the chat you see? I can look around now too for more.
Lots of thank yous for your time and for the information.
Yes, thank you
Thanks
to Rosemary and Aaron and Carly and Matthew for answering questions in the chat. All right.
There were, I was going to say, I don't know whether people are still here, but there were a couple of questions in the chat that if the folks were still around, they might. There was one that was like about municipalities enacting policies on public lands without state level legislation overturning because of preemption laws, which was an interesting one because I know that some states were like with the federal level, they're trying to pass something that says, nope, you can't make it more strict than what we say.
Right. But applying to which type of land?
Well, the question
on public lands, I see.
It says, yeah, can local municipalities enact policies on public lands without state level legislation overturning the preemption laws?
Right. So it depends on whose public land it is. If it's the municipality's public land, they can do that. They can make a decision to, adopt a certain land management strategy for those properties. I think that's less clear if it's like state property. I don't know that they have the jurisdiction to necessarily do that. And that kind of, I think that highlights just sort of the legal, political, like place that we're at right now, that you really need this combination of good outreach and like neighbor to neighbor communication and interacting with your town officials and passing a policy. You really can't do it without buy-in from certain folks in the community.
Yeah, thanks for getting to that. That was my question. I work as the park superintendent for the city of Spearfish, and that's what I was concerned with. we have a lot of public land that we manage in various parks and sports fields and campground and things like that. And so I was just wondering, essentially kind of what you said, if we want to put together a land management plan, do we have to worry about those preemption laws? And if we're making these laws more strict, or if it's just something that we choose to abide by, is that okay?
Right, yeah, and the answer should be that it's okay, as long as it's, municipal land. No one's gonna come in and overturn that. You just cannot apply it to, the preemption laws come in with, pesticide applicators and private land. You can't tell private citizens what to do on their land via municipal policy.
Gotcha. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. Thanks for asking.
I'm not trying to be a pain here, but one of the other things that came up in 2 or 3 of the questions was, are there organic, or alternative products that can be used, particularly at a municipal scale?
Aaron, I don't know if you have particular recommendations for.
Yeah, I don't have specific recommendations. I think, we tend to not recommend certain products, even organic ones, just because things are so context dependent, depending on where you are, what weed you're trying to control, things like that. I'm happy to drop our, kind of organic pest management. I forget the official title of the document, but the document that talks about some organic pesticides and herbicides and some of the kind of pros and cons of them into the chat. But I don't have a one size fits all, like if this is a good glyphosate replacement, for example.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, because it may be organic, but it's still intended to kill something.
I think that's a really key point too, Matthew. Yeah, that just because something's organic doesn't mean it's necessarily safe for pollinators and other invertebrates. It's still designed to kill.
Yeah, I've added in the chat one of our documents, organic pesticides, minimizing risks to pollinators and beneficial insects. It's a bit of an older document, but it's written by our Xerces staff, and I hopefully can provide some context. And within that page, it also has a related document, Common Organic Allowed Pesticides, a comparative overview, which will give you a sense of how targeted some of those organic pesticides can be. Some of them are still pretty broad spectrum that can really affect a lot of beneficial insects. So that can be helpful if you're looking through the lens of organic.
Thanks, Laura. That was the document I was just digging for. Perfect.
Phyllis has a question. Home Depot and Lowe's pledged to end selling neonic treated plants many years ago. How have they done?
Very reluctant to answer this question. I don't know that we have, I don't know that there's data that there's third-party data looking at the neonic levels in their plants. What I will say is they source from many different places. So I guess I'd be a little surprised if they were able to completely fulfill that pledge. The nursery industry is very complicated, as I'm sure some folks on the call know, especially with big box stores like that. They're bringing in plants from lots of different growers. They're not growing them on site. They're not growing them in-house or anything like that. So it can get complicated. Aaron, if anything you would say?
No, I think that yeah, that's a great answer.
I'm gonna answer that by not answering that. The other thing I will say is the other piece of federal legislation that very relevant right now is one introduced by Senator Merkley from Oregon. It's the Pollinator Friendly Labeling Act, which would basically create a USDA organic type certification, but for nursery plants. And that in part was inspired actually by a research that Xerces did on retail milkweed plants, which found alarmingly that they had lots of pesticides in them, often at harmful levels. So even though something was potentially sold under the label of being pollinator friendly, it still had toxic pesticides in it.
Yeah, I'll just add the other complication with the big box stores is you can talk to the staff and ask them questions, and they won't necessarily know what their stock is, because the stock they have in their garden center display is not necessarily cared for by them. The individual vendors bring, the wholesale nursery or whatever the supplier brings it in, and it's the nursery staff that go in and tend the plants. And so it can be a difficult question to find answers to.
Yeah, and on that note, this is a perfect intro to next month. We're going to be having a great session, a webinar with Sharon Salvaggio on our pesticides teams that is plants you can brag about, going into how to buy bee safe plants and how to actually look at perhaps contract purchasing with a nursery. So in the chat, I put a document, Buying Bee Safe Plants, which kind of provides some language you can use if you want to approach a local nursery that may have a bit more of a sense of what pesticides they're using or what their buyers are using, and kind of, how to get started with those conversations. It helps if you're spending money. If you have a budget to buy a lot of native plants, it can make it easier to have some tougher rules about what you want those plants to have, what might be applied to those plants. If you're doing a contract grow, you might have a bit more control over that process. So please join us next month. It's going to be on February 22nd. I will, it's not yet on our events page, but I will be adding that to our social media, our e-newsletter, and then all affiliates, the committee members will receive an emailed invite as well. But that's going to be that'll be a fun session, and kind of will be part of a bigger effort Sharon's making this next year to look at how you bee cities and bee campuses make your purchases, and how we can help you work with nurseries to show them, what's the ideal conditions we want to see these plants grown under to provide for our beneficial insects and not hurt them. We got a question from Stephen. How long for a treated plant to purge itself of pesticide toxins? A week, a month, a season?
Really depends on the pesticide that's used. They have, break down at different rates. Depends how it was applied, whether it was, applied on the surface, or if it, like Rosemary was talking about, some of these neonics that they're systemic, which means it's expressed throughout the plant's tissue. Some of those, especially in woody plants, are active for several years, even months to years. So it really depends on the pesticide and also how much was applied. I think what we kind of tend to recommend, like if you have a plant that's treated, was treated, and you put it in your garden, you can, put maybe a fine netting over it to exclude pollinators and other herbivores for, that first growing season. By the second growing season, it's probably relatively safe. Yeah, Rosemary, I don't know if you have different recommendation there. I think it's just hard to know without knowing exactly, what chemical was applied and how much.
Agree. It also highlights, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, it highlights, with neonics at least, it highlights the difficulty with some of the application instructions as well, because we're not talking about treated seeds now, but if you're talking about something like a soil drench or foliar application, you're often it says like, don't apply it when it's blooming, right? So people will apply it a few weeks ahead of time, but the reality is that that chemical is often still there. It's been absorbed by the plant. So that doesn't, eliminate, that doesn't really eliminate the risk.
Just to go back to that question we had early on about the mosquito spraying signs, in case somebody isn't able to see the chat, Peter did respond regarding the mosquito spraying kills bees signage they have. He linked to the Bee Cater website, which is beecaterga.com/mosquito-spraying. And he says, we sell the signs for local pickup in Decatur/Atlanta, but they're too expensive/difficult to ship. I'm happy to share art with you if you want to tailor them for your own use. You can contact me, Peter Helfrich, at beecaturga@gmail.com. That's beecaturga@gmail.com. Peter has been a really great mentor to a lot of our affiliates, our other Bee Cities and campuses. So if he's still on, thank you, Peter. We appreciate you. All right, I think that is the most of the questions here. Any last thoughts anyone has before we wrap up?
I think
Well-
there was one new one from Tilton. Is there any litmus tests for chemical amounts on plants?
There are labs that will, you can provide samples to them of soil or vegetation, and they'll run tests. And a lot of them will take samples from the public. Unfortunately, they tend to be pretty darn expensive, on the order of like, $100 to $300 per sample for kind of a broad spectrum analysis. So those labs do exist out there. Unfortunately, they're not super cost effective. Yeah, so whether it's worth it or not to pursue that, I think is, kind of a decision that is kind of up to you. Yeah.
Also, depending on where you are too, if you have some like local Native Plant Society folks or wild ones, sometimes those groups will have accrued, they will make a list of like the local native plant vendors and often screen them for pesticide practices. It really varies depending on where you are, but it's worth it to see if something like that is near you. If you're in Massachusetts, I can give you the list.
Yeah, and we can also dig up the link, but on the Xerces Society website, there's the seed and plant vendor database as well. And questions about their pesticide practices are one of our steps that we take to adding people to our list.
Yeah, I'll put that in the chat right here.
Great. Thanks,
But
Emma.
I will go ahead and wrap this up. We are 15 minutes over the hour. Thank you so much again for everyone that joined us, and thank you, Aaron and Rosemary, for your expertise.
Yeah.
And feel free to reach out to us if you have questions or need support. We really appreciate your hard work. And if you're in the North Central region, we have our regional affiliate meetup next week. I hope to see you there. More regional meetings to come, so we'll have more opportunities to answer your questions. But yeah, we're here to support you, and please visit our website if you need more information about any of our work. The commitments are all there, and you could reach out to fellow affiliates under the current affiliate section. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Have you a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Laura.
Bye.
Thank you.